Alright, so in the last video we made these two basic shapes, and now we're going to look at how we can add to these and how we can edit things that maybe we did earlier on, how to make holes in them. That'll be a large part of what we do for future projects. So the first thing I want to do, we're still here in the sketch. We hadn't started a sketch, but we're kind of the option we can. So I'm going to click Start 2D Sketch, just like we did last time, and then I'm going to select the plane or the face of these objects that I want to sketch on. So for example, the front here, if I want to put another object, another square or circle or hole on this face here, I'm going to click it. You can see it kind of highlights it with a white line. So I'm going to click that. It turns it, gives me a front view of it, a nice front profile view of it. So now I can come up here to any of these sketches, because now I'm in sketch mode again, and I can put any of these things on here. So I'm just going to put a circle. And let's say I just want to put a circle there. Let's make it, type in 0.25. So it's 1/4 of an inch. It tells me the dimension there. And maybe I want to put the dimension of that center point maybe right in the center of this entire rectangle. So I'm going to use the dimension feature. But now I'm going to tell it from the center point of the circle, so click, and then the edge of the top, okay, I'm going to pull it out here, and I can type in whatever I want it to be, 1 inch, whatever. You can see that brings it off of the object. But one thing I want to show you, I'm going to back up a little bit, is a little bit easier way to do it. A little bit, you don't have to do the math, because we actually need it to be centered of 0.70. It can be a little tough to figure that out, especially when you get into complex measurement. I'm going to use the dimension line. I'm going to say from the center point of that circle to that top line should be 0.700, because that's our overall length of this side, divided by 2. And that puts it at 0.350, exactly half of that overall side. Alright, same thing if we're going to center it left to right here. You can see it's over on the left here. I'm going to say from that center point to the edge should be half of this. Of course, I probably ought to see what that half is, but alright, so to put this centered left to right, I'm going to click that middle point. First off, let's see how far this is. It's exactly 1 inch. Alright, so that's good. We know it's obviously 0.5, but it won't always be that easy. So I'm going to say from that point to this edge over here, bring this down and click, it's going to be 1 inch divided by 2, or a ½ inch. You'll see it moves it to exactly 0.500 inches. So everything's in a tenth in here. Alright, so it's centered exactly vertically, half of 0.700, and it's centered left to right horizontally, half of 1 inch. Alright, I can get out of sketch mode now, so I'm going to click Finish Sketch. I'm going to go back to the Extrude button. And right now we're direction 1, and we're making it an option to make it 3-dimensional if I click here. So it's making it 3-dimensional by a ½ inch. I could leave it like that if that's what I was supposed to do, or I can click this little button right here, right below this one. It's supposed to be a cut feature, and you can see it cuts away. I'm going to orbit it just a little bit so you can kind of see. It cuts a hole in that object. Gives you a little bit, you can change the distance, so maybe I didn't want it to go all the way through, I just wanted it to go like 0.25, 1/4 of an inch through. And you'll see that it does not go all the way through. It just goes a 1/4 of an inch into that rectangle. Let's just make it a full all the way through, or ½ inch. I could change this to all if I didn't want to do distance. Just leave it at distance for the most part. You'll be able to handle everything that way. So I'm going to hit OK. And you'll see now my object has a hole all the way through it. Alright, and I can work with it like that. A couple things now I want to show you is how to edit this. There always will come a time when you want to go back and you want to edit something, and instead of just starting a new sketch, it won't let you edit that. You don't want to start a sketch to edit that hole. What I want to do is get over here in what's called the browser. Yours might call it the model. Depends on what year model you're working with in the software, but it's the browser. So I can do, over on this left side over here, I can open these plus signs. So Extrusion 2, I've got a Sketch 2. And when I put my mouse over it, you'll see it highlights the lines out here, letting me know that that's what I did in that extrusion or sketch. Alright? So if I want to work on, if I want to change this hole, maybe it needs to be bigger. I think it was a 1/4 of an inch. Maybe I need it to be 0.30 inches. If I open this extrusion, then I see that we're under Sketch 2. I see where I edited those things on the block. I can double click it and it will open that sketch and allow me to edit that sketch. So now I'm in this sketch where I made this hole, and then I end up centering the hole and extruding the hole. I'm going to double click where it says 0.250, and it gives me the option to quickly edit that dimension. So I'm going to change it to 0.3 and hit enter. And then all I got to do is finish the sketch up in the top right here, hit the check mark. And you'll see there it automatically updated my the hole that I adjusted. So anytime you want to go edit something, this browser on the left is your friend. A couple other things you can do in the browser. Right now you don't see the dimensions of that object. When we submit things in this class, I'm going to need to see the dimensions of your objects that you make, because the hole looks pretty large when I'm zoomed in. But when I'm zoomed back out, it doesn't look that big. So everyone's objects will look a little different depending on the perspective that I get when they turn it in. So what I want you to be doing is going over here to your browser on the left, and these extrusions and anything that you make, the sketches that you made them in, right click on your mouse and you'll see an option for visibility. We want to make sure visibility is checked. Do the same. I'm going to do the same thing with sketch 2. Right click, check visibility. So now what you see is these measurements stay on here all the time. They're always visible. So anything you did in that sketch is now visible. So when I grade this, I can go, excellent, you made the hole 0.300, it's centered a ½ inch from the side, it's 0.350 from the top, you did everything correct, you get a good grade. So I need to see dimensions, and to show dimensions, we go over here to the sketches, we right click, and we make sure we check visibility. Alright, you have to open the extrusions with the little plus sign to get to those sketches. Something that's very important that you'll do a lot. A couple other things. One thing is a fillet. We don't necessarily need it in this object, but we're going to just do it just to demonstrate. This option right here for a fillet. If you click that, it'll give you the option to change the corners of the object. You can type in this radius and edit that feature. So if you double click it, let's see, it's a 0.125. Let's do 0.2. It doesn't really matter for this. We're just kind of showing you. So I changed it to 0.2, and you can see it is rounded off that object. And I'm going to do it just kind of to all sides of this. All right. So all the radius of them is 0.2, and there's a couple assignments where it's going to tell you make a fillet of 0.1, something like that, to your object. So you'll know how to adjust it right here. Just click on the radius and adjust that fillet dimension, and then you'll hit apply. Cancel, get off that. Now you can see our box has some kind of rounded, smooth edges. We don't have those sharp corners that we had at the beginning. So on this side, we're not filleted. You can see we have sharp corners. On this side here, we have a 0.2 radius for our fillets, and kind of rounds them off, gives them a little smoother look. The other thing I want to show you is to color these, and that's what everybody always wants to know. How do I color my objects so they're not this ugly gray? If you look at the top, you've got some different pinwheels. They're colored pinwheels. The one that we generally will use is just this basic one. It says appearance. It doesn't have the two little icons with it. So if you click this, it'll give you this option, and then when you scroll down through here, you'll see all these different colors and materials. Not just colors. I can make it metal, iron, or something like that. But I'm just going to get with some basic colors. So like yellow. If I want this object here to be yellow, I'm going to click this and drag it up to the top. And you'll see it puts it up here on the appearances that I might use. Same with red. Anything I might want to do. So now over here, I'm going to select an object. I'm going to click and drag to the left. You see that green box that comes over it? It turns it all blue when I let go of the mouse. Now I can click the color that I want it to be, and you'll see it kind of turns it red. I click off of it to see it a little better. And this one here, if I want this one to be yellow, I'll click with the left click the mouse, drag my mouse over it with the green box, and let it go. Turns it blue, let it know I've selected it. Now I'm going to select the color over here that I want it to be, or the material that I might want it to be. Alright, so then I can exit off of that, and now I've got two colored objects.